Hi, everyone. My name is Zuz. This is Gareth. Gareth is going to help me a little bit today. And I have a confession to make. I used to be a dopamine athlete for years. And my worth was defined in milliseconds and successful deployments. Because I used to be a software developer, I used to be a machine learning engineer. I taught hundreds of students how to code. And if you ever shipped code or launched a marketing campaign or closed this high-stakes client, you know this feeling. It tells your nervous system, I am doing the right thing. I'm moving things forward. And as a builder, you know your identity. You make things work. And it's really addicting because you get a confirmation of doing the right job every 10 minutes, half an hour, hundreds times a day. And this used to be my world as well. Until something shifted and I moved on to leadership. And my work became more strategical. And overnight, my reward system basically went dark. I wasn't shipping features anymore, but I was shipping Google Docs. I wasn't fixing bugs, but I was fixing humans. And I can confirm humans do not respond to pull requests, not at all. And there are no green tests in leadership. There is only gray areas. And I was working more and more, but I was feeling like I'm doing nothing. My days were basically useless. And if you are less motivated, the more successful you are, then let me tell you, you are not broken, but you are going through a metamorphosis. And this is not just a personal anecdote. Does anyone know what do these numbers represent? 90% of tech startups fail at some point. 90% of Web3 startups fail within the first 5 years. And 99% of Web3 projects generate exactly 0 cash revenue. And these numbers are pretty staggering. And we usually blame the product market fit, or we blame the bad tokenomics. But as a coach, I do see another hidden killer, which is an identity collapse. Because people who lead these projects are not prepared from the abrupt transition from their craftsmanship into leadership. And we're losing our best builders because we forced them to abandon the reward system that made them brilliant in the first place. And we expect them to become leaders without any leadership toolkit. And now to understand why this collapse happens or why the burnout happens, we need to look under the hood. And for years, my brain was trained in something I called the dopamine supermarket. Because if you're a developer, a marketer, a salesperson, you're probably living in a dense reward environment. Why? Well, every shipped feature, every bug fixed, every campaign live notification, every potential lead closed, or every issue closed in the linear is a signal in your own favor. And what happens is that your midbrain dopamine neurons fire, and they send this surge of, yes, I did it, kind of feeling. And this feels great, but it's not just a mood boost. This is actually reinforcement learning. And your identity is very clear because the world tells you 100 times a day you're doing a good job. But then you become a leader and you're not in a supermarket anymore. You're in a strategy garden. And in this garden, nothing grows for 6 months. There is no refresh button for your team morale. There is no deploy for 5-year-long strategy. The strategy work, the culture building, the hiring are abstract and ambiguous. And you're living in a sparse reward environment. In this world, the problem is that you were never trained for the long game. You're actually undergoing a reward starvation. You're craving for these instant wins, but you do have to wait for them. And when these instant signals stop, your brain is not thinking like, oh, the work has changed. No, your brain is like, you, my dear, have failed. By the way, do you know how a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly? It biologically doesn't just grow wings. First, it goes into the cocoon and it dissolves into a liquid soup. And from that soup, the butterfly appears. And if you are a leader, you're probably in this messy soup right now. While your old identity, the one that ships, is dissolving, the new one, the one that leads, has not formed yet. And because we do not normalize the process of dissolving, we perceive discomfort as burnout. And you may say, I need vacation. I need another AI agent to optimize my work. Or I need to grind harder. But you cannot really outgrind something which is biological. And in my work with Web3 founders, with tech founders, with the wider ecosystems, I've seen so many projects fail, and the protocols stall, and the team's losing direction, because the person in the lead has lost their feedback loop. And this is structural. This is not personal. And the attempt that many leaders make is to find another productivity hack. Or they want to get rid of this builder identity completely because they mean that the maturity requires them to let go of their craft completely. But the builder identity is not something that you grow out of, but this is your primary reward system. So instead of getting rid of the builder, you want to evolve it, and you want to become the integrated leader and run both identities at the same time. How do you do it, though? First, you run an audit. And I would like to invite all of you to do it together with me right now. The dopamine audit, you ask yourself a question: what is that one task that gives me the feeling of completion? What gives me the proof of competence? Is it the excitement of solving a bug? Is it the feeling of moving forward when you launch a marketing campaign? Is it a binary yes from a potential client? I mean it. Because if you cannot identify something, you cannot really preserve it. And once you are able to name it, you can let go of the guilt of needing this small practical work. The second step, we translate. Because leadership is not building, it's still building, but at a different altitude. So developers, you are not just managing people, but you are debugging organizational systems. Marketeers, you are not sitting in the meetings, but you are designing, architecting the narrative machine. And sales, ops, you are not just doing admin work, but you are designing the partnership framework. And if we don't consciously reframe leadership as a craft, our brain will see every hour spent leading as an hour spent failing. And then the last step, we install the synthetic feedback loops. Because we cannot survive on rewards that trigger only every 6 months. We need to microdose this feeling of green ticks, this feeling of done. So why don't you ship a weekly memo? Hitting send on the strategy update gives the closure that your brain is craving. And actually, hitting send on anything triggers the same signals as shipping code does. Because your brain doesn't care if you're shipping a feature or if you're shipping a decision. Another thing is going back to the audit we just did. If you have the task that gives you this feeling, give 10% of your time to that task. So spend 4 hours doing something small. I don't care what it is. It might be reviewing a GitHub PR. It might be defining a new prototype. It might be automating a workflow, as long as it has a state of done. Then the visible decision log. Turn your invisible labor into a visible record that you can share with your co-founders, with your team, with your investors, with your mom and dad as well. Show them what you're doing behind the scenes. And lastly, the loop that is external. Find a person that can reflect back to you what you cannot see. Whether it's your co-founder, a coach, a peer who's been through it as well, a founder from another project. It's about creating a space for yourself to be listened to and then receive the feedback and reflections from their side. And these are not just new tasks, but these are actually signal restorers that feed your builder identity so that you do have the fuel to get on the long-term vision and lead from the position of strength and confidence. But as I'm telling you about microdosing your builder identity, there is a warning, and there are a couple of traps that you really have to watch out for. The first one, the trust trap. You can also call it a control loop. When you start reintegrating your builder tasks into your day, you have to be really honest with yourself. Am I reviewing this PR because it's bringing me joy, or because I don't trust my lead engineer? Am I drafting the marketing copy because I love writing, or because I think that my team is incompetent? See, the builder identity says, I create because I feel progress. The control loop says, I create because nobody else can, right? Only I can do it. The first one is stabilizing your nervous system, and the other one just destroys your culture. And when you're running both identities at the same time, you have to have the maturity to separate your need for feedback and for dopamine from your team's need for their own autonomy. And again, I've seen so many projects fail because of this control loop, even though they had everything else to put together. The other trap is the no boss paradox, because the higher you get, the lonelier it is. And as a builder, you had a boss, you had a mentor, or you had someone on GitHub tell you, looks good to me, let's go. But as a leader, you don't have this feedback loop. Maybe if you're in product, you get the validation from the market, but it comes with a delay, and usually it's very ambiguous. And you maybe will try to get the feedback from your team, but they are not there to congratulate you. When actually the research looks at the teams, it turns out that they are rather complaining rather than celebrating. So if you're trying to get the dopamine that you used to get from your previous work from your team, you're going to burn them out. And you are responsible for creating your own feedback architecture in order to have your team function properly. So we're going back to the previous steps of getting feedback from other peers. And lastly, the last trap is sustaining the metamorphosis, because becoming an integrated leader is not a temporary bridge to get you through a tough month. It's a permanent requirement for everyone in leadership positions. And when you understand this, the guilt for missing the practical, the smaller work disappears. And you see that keeping one foot in your craft is not a regression, but it's the very thing that gives you a neurological grounding to lead the vision. And we do not need leaders who abandon their identity to lead, but we need leaders who lead because they kept their identity alive. See, this metamorphosis is not about deleting the builder, but it's about evolving it. And if you're running both identities at the same time, you're aligned with your own biology. And you stop looking for green tests, but you start creating green lights for the future. And you become an integrated founder, someone who is neurologically grounded in their own mastery. Builder and a leader. And this is the loop that is really worth keeping. And if you are in the messy middle yourself, if you see someone going dark, I would love to talk. Garrett would love to talk too, because this is a solvable problem, but too many people are trying to solve it with the wrong tools. Thanks. Any questions? No questions. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I can take